Chag Sameach.
It's good to see you. Shalom, Rebbe. How are you? I lost. Here you are. You are among other 25 windows here in Zoom. I couldn't find you. I'm glad to see you now. So before we even get started, because it's actually 10 p.m. and I'm afraid that some of you might fall asleep, I thought that we might sing something just to get started. And we are going to use those words later on for a part of our conversation. So Rabbi Gersh was speaking about the Hasidic Torah. Let's do a Hasidic Nigun just to follow up, and then we might conclude also later on our conversation with the Hasidic story. Let me share the words. I can share my screen. Yes, I can. And I just need to find where I'll get there in a second. Here it is, sorry. Give me 1 second, everyone. So the words are very simple, and we will explore these words later on. Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Eloav. And I want to work on the nigun with you. Should be quite simple. And you are muted, but I can see if you are moving your lips. It goes like this. Yam bara bam 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 bam, yam bara bam 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 bam, yada bam 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 bam. Try it with me. Yam bara bam 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 bam, yam bara bam 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 bam, yada bam 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 bam. It goes a bit faster than that. Yam bara bam 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 bam, yam bara bam 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 bam, yada bam 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 bam. Yam bara bam 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 bam, yam bara bam 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 bam, yada bam 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 bam. Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Eloav, Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Eloav. Let's try it again. Yam bara bam 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 bam, yam bara bam 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 bam, yada bam 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 bam. Yam bara bam 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 bam, yada bam 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 bam, yada bam 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 bam. Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Eloav, Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Eloav. So, in the context of Shavuot, we think and we talk about Matan Torah. Any idea of what the meaning of the word Matan is? Two possible meanings. One is the giving of the Torah from the verb latet, and another one is from the word matana, is a gift to us, a gift to the Jewish people and eventually to all nations. And there is a couple that comes together. Every time that we speak about Torah, we say Torah u Mitzvot. It's a combo. These two words come together. And as we start our conversation, I wanted to explore the word mitzvah and try to understand what's the meaning of the word mitzvah that sometimes we misuse. And I wanted to ask Rabbi Einstein if you are able, Rabbi, to share with us what is the meaning of the word mitzvah.
Yes, is the answer. I certainly can. You're hearing me well? Yes, Chag Sameach. So this afternoon, I rolled back my Omer counter. Every day for 49 days, we were counting. 7 weeks. 7 weeks. I remember the second night of Pesach, we started this. And that's why this holiday is called Shavuot, because it is weeks. It's 7 weeks after Pesach. It's also called Chag HaBikurim, the festival of the first fruits from the harvest time. And Rabbi Young, my young Fountain Valley Rabbi, he's the young Fountain Valley Rabbi, I'm the old Fountain Valley Rabbi. He spoke about this earlier in his drush during the service. And then there is the liturgical name for this holiday, Zman Matan Toratenu, that Rabbi Nico, you just mentioned. It is the season of the giving of the Torah. Torah reading for this holiday is Exodus chapters 19 and 20, which includes arguably the most famous passage of all in all of Scripture, and that is the Ten Commandments. 10 Commandments. Well, that brings up a question, really. How many commandments are there? If you were to ask the average person in the street, how many commandments are there? They would say, what? Is this some kind of a trick question? Everybody knows there are 10 commandments. It is amazing. I see my excellent student, John Tice, just gave the right answer. Okay. So a lot of people know things that aren't exactly correct. You know, at one time, the recitation of the Ten Commandments was part of the Jewish daily liturgy. But at a certain point, our rabbis put a stop to that. Why? Because a daily recitation of that passage inadvertently reinforced what is a Christian idea, namely that there are 10 commandments and that's it. Of course, that's not true. This section of the Torah that we call the 10 Commandments, generally, amongst Jews, we don't call it that. What do we call the section? Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 statements. These are great statements. Not all commandments. Consider only for a moment the first. How does the passage begin? Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit abadim. I, the Eternal, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. That's not a commandment. There's no commandment there. It is, in fact, a statement of authorship. So, now to Rabbi Nico's question. What does the word mitzvah mean? Imagine for a moment that you're in a group of Jews right here in Orange County. For those of us who are here, I know we have people from other places, but those who are in Orange County, you guys are speaking with 10 Jews, probably not all at the same time right now. And you ask them this question: what does the word mitzvah mean? I would predict that 5 of them would say something along these lines. Look, I'm Jewish. I'm proud to be a Jew. I love my Judaism, but I don't know a lot of those details. Please don't ask me any questions. That takes care of 5. But 4 of them would say, that is an easy one. Everybody knows mitzvah means a good deed. Only 1 would actually get it right, besides Bonnie, who just gave her the right answer, and that is commandment. The word actually means a commandment. I know why people have this confusion of good deed and mitzvah. We often use the word in that fashion. We say, oh, you know what, can you do a mitzvah? Pick up your aunt and drive her to her mahjong game. All right? That's a kind of a good deed. And some mitzvot are, in fact, good deeds. A good deed is an example of a mitzvah, but it's not a definition. Definition is, what does the word actually mean? What's implied in the word mitzvah is ought. It's something that we as Jews ought to be doing. Now, some Jews understand mitzvah as a direct order from God. Others see it as a demand made upon us by the Torah, by Jewish tradition, by Judaic values. So, how many mitzvot are there? By the traditional Jewish count, we say Taryag mitzvot, 613. I see my friends Vic and people come through my class. They know the answers to this. Okay, 613. Taryag is a gematria. It's Hebrew numerology, and it adds up to the number 613. Now, this number can be divided in several different ways. First of all, we can count up 248 positive commandments. Positive meaning, thou shalt. And 365 negative commandments, thou shalt not. Kind of interesting that there are more negative than positive. That's one way of counting. There's another way to divide these mitzvot, though. We speak of the mitzvot, some of them as ben adam lamakom. They relate to us and God. And others of the mitzvot are ben adam lachavero, between us and our fellow human beings. And there's yet a third way that we can divide the mitzvot, and that is between ethical mitzvot and ritual mitzvot. You know, we say brachot all the time before we do a mitzvah. This evening, we said, Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov. You, God, made us holy through your mitzvot, and you gave us the mitzvah of lighting the festival lights. It's a mitzvah, not a good deed. It doesn't directly relate to our fellow human beings. It's something that connects us to God. There are, of course, many other mitzvot that do directly connect us with God. Love your neighbor as yourself. And how do you put that into practice? So now we get to tonight's main theme. And here is the statement. Mitzvot have within them personal redemptive power for each of us. Let me just say that one more time, because that is going to be the theme. Mitzvot have within them personal redemptive power for each of us. Just how? My dear friend, Rabbi Nico, is going to explore this question with us now. Let's see, start the video. He's trying to find the unmute button.
For coming back and unmuting me. So, in order to understand this idea of the redemptive power of mitzvot, I want first to make a connection between mitzvot and this idea of being given the Torah, Mount Sinai, and something that happened just 7 weeks ago. So from the idea of freedom, redemption, we go into the idea of obligation, of commitment, and how that happens, and what that is such an important step in order to be able to exercise our freedom. Professor Barry Schwartz explains what he calls the official dogma of Western industrial societies. He says, if we are interested in maximizing the welfare of our citizens, the way to do that is to maximize individual freedom. The reason for this is both that freedom is in and of itself good and essential for all humans, and because if people have freedom, then each of us can act on our own to do the things that will maximize our welfare. The way to maximize freedom, he says, listen to this statement, is to maximize choice. The way to maximize freedom, he says, is to maximize choice. What do you think? Is this right or wrong? Do you agree with this idea? Yes or no? You can show me your fingers. Yes or not? Some people say yes, some people say no, and come on, it's one of the foundations of the American society. You know, we go to the grocery store, we have many choices. We want to be able to choose everywhere. That's how we exercise our freedom. And this professor says, Barry Schwartz, I think he's a Jew, he says, if you maximize freedom, if you want to maximize freedom in order to maximize the welfare of your society, you need to maximize choice. That is a common belief. Now, he says there is a problem with this belief. What's the problem with this belief? Well, the problem with this belief is that it creates two things. The first one is that multiplicity of choice creates paralysis. When we are given many choices, we usually can't make a choice. And in a different opportunity for some of you, I'd love to share what happened to me when I tried to get a new watch, and I just wrote in Amazon like watch for men and got like 500,000 results. And then for a year, I couldn't buy a watch. I just couldn't. I couldn't make a choice. Yeah, we have Amazon, free market, but me, Nico Solocovsky, I couldn't make a choice. I had too many options. The second component, so first one is paralysis. The second one is that we can try many things. You can go and try a pair of jeans, but there should be something that is better, right? Because there are many, many other options. So we keep trying and trying and trying and trying. And even when we make a choice at the end, we are not so satisfied because we might have something that is very good, but not necessarily perfect. And if we had so many options, there should be something that is perfect. So one of the things that we know about the multiplicity of choices is lack of satisfaction, paralysis and lack of satisfaction. Now, there was a viral video a couple of years ago of a young man delivering a graduation a speech in Harvard University. His name was Peter Davids. And he said some brilliant words I want to share with you. I am sure many of you have had this experience. It's late at night and you start browsing Netflix looking for something to watch. You scroll through different titles. You even read a few reviews, but you just can't commit. You can't commit, listen to the word commit, to watching any given movie. Suddenly, it's been 30 minutes, and you are still stuck in infinite browsing mode. So you just give up. You are too tired to watch anything now, so you cut your losses and fall asleep. He continues and says, I have come to believe that this is the defining characteristic of our generation, keeping our options open. He says there's this philosopher, Simon Bauman, he called it liquid modernity. We never want to commit to any one identity or place or community. So we remain like liquid in a state that can adapt to fit any future shape, like liquid modernity, is infinite browsing mode, but for everything in our lives. And I will make my statement now in two pieces. The power of the mitzvot is to break that liquid modernity, is to break that infinite browsing mode, and to help us create a shape in our lives, define a form, and then exercise our freedom. Now, there's this philosopher, his name is Ortega y Gasset. Now look at me well. I am an immigrant. So every time I share this quote, people think I am making a mistake, but I'm not. So please listen to me well, and then I will explain this quote. He says, I am and my circumstance. Shall I repeat this? I am and my circumstance, which basically means that my identity is defined, or who I am is defined by the way in which I deal with my life circumstances. I am not what happens to me. I am the reflection of my choices, of my actions, as I deal the reflections of my choices and my actions, and therefore I cannot live in liquid state forever, because then I don't have an identity. I am the reflection of my actions and my choices. That's what defines who I am. Now, oh my gosh, time is flying. So allow me share a story with you. And so we get to a second bottom line about the redemptive power of mitzvot, and let's try to understand why we use the word redemption. And one part you already understand, because we are going to argue that the process that started with the Exodus comes to a completion, comes to fulfillment when we are able to give shape to our lives by taking the mitzvot. And here's the story. Very famous brothers, Rabbi Susha from Anapoli and Rabbi Eli Melech from Lindsay. They used to wander around with bandits and with vagabonds. And one day they were taken into jail. Now the rabbis were very confident of their innocence, so they weren't too worried, and they spent some time in the cell, in prison, in jail, conversing with each other. And at some point, Rabbi Elimelech starts to get ready to daven, to pray mincha, the afternoon prayer. And Rabbi Susha looks at him and says, "What are you doing, my brother?" And he says, "Well, I'm getting ready to daven mincha." And he says, Susha says to Elimelech, "Don't you know that we are commanded not to pray in a prayer that is unsuitable for prayer?" And he says, "You see, there is a pail there that is to be used as a toilet. So we cannot pray in this place." The brothers remained silent for a moment, and Elimelech sat on the side and started to cry. He cried and cried with such deep sorrow and bitterness. So Rabbi Susha comes once again to him and says, "Why are you crying, my brother?" And Elimelech says, "I am crying because we cannot fulfill the mitzvah of praying mincha. I'm crying because we cannot fulfill that mitzvah." And then Susha says, "Don't you see it? The same God that has commanded you not to pray in a place that is unsuitable for prayer has commanded you to pray mincha. So you can celebrate the fact that you are not praying. You are fulfilling the mitzvah of not to pray in a place that is unsuitable for prayer. Elimelech was surprised, and all of a sudden he started to smile. He started to feel some joy, and the two brothers started to dance in the prison with each other and to sing songs. And one of the guardians comes and asks to one of the other prisoners, why are these two Jews dancing? Why are these two Jews rejoicing, overjoyed? Like, what's happening with these guys? And the prisoner says, I don't know. They said something about the pail and about the toilet. And since that moment, they became very joyful and they started to dance. So the guardian says, I'm not going to let them enjoy their time in prison. So he takes the pail out of the cell, out of the jail, and he says, now they're going to learn what's the meaning of being in jail. And so the two brothers smiled once again, and then this time they prayed mincha. And an important thing about this story is that the power of the mitzvot is not to disconnect us from our life circumstances and from what's happening to us, but is to help us to experience in a deeper level what's happening to us and our life circumstances. Now we have 2 more minutes. I want to share. Rabbi, unmute yourself so we can talk to each other. I want to share my screen. I want to walk back to this thing that we shared at the beginning. And again, I don't know. Here it is. Here's my screen. This verse. Ashrei am shekacha lo, we say in the book of Psalms, in Tehillim, Ashrei am shadonai Eloav. And there's a big question. Ashrei am shekacha lo. Happy is the people, joyful is the people who have it so. Kacha. Kacha is like just like that in Hebrew. When you ask a kid why and he tells you kacha, it's just answering to you like that, just like that. And the word kacha, many will interpret that refers to mitzvot. Happy is the people that connect with God through the fulfillment of mitzvot. Now, 2 words that I want to explore here. Number 1 is the word God, she Adonai Eloav, because we usually translate that as the Lord or Adonai, but we know that actually the source of that word is being, the verb to be, the verb liot. Now, there's another question about the word kacha. And the word kacha, the numerical value, gematria, is 45. I wrote this somewhere. I don't know where I wrote this, just for you to see. I think I remember. Doesn't matter. You just listen to me, don't look at that. The numerical value of the word kacha is 45.
Right.
And the numerical value of the word Adam is also 45. Now, what is God's question to Adam? Ayeka, where are you? And in the book of Genesis. And here's another way to read this verse, and we are at the end of our time. Happy are the individuals, are those that have the ability to live life of awareness, of personal connection with God, with the mitzvot, with actions. And happy is the people that translate that connection in a collective one. Rabbi.
Thank you very much, Yasher Koach. I loved it. I'm looking at the comments. Everybody loved the story and the singing. And a reminder, while a good deed is an example of a mitzvah, every mitzvah we do is a connector with God. And I think this is an idea that on Shavuot we should really focus on. We work for the betterment of our fellow human beings, but we are commanded to do so by God.
And the redemptive power, my last sentence, I think Rabbi Kevod already kind of looking at me, don't worry, we're done. The redemptive power is, on Passover, we were given freedom in form of liquidity. In Shavuot, we are given the opportunity to shape that freedom with Torah and with our actions. So and we have the gift, the matan, the gift of being able to transform our lives. And that gift is given to us in every moment of our existence. So let's make sure that we all accept that gift and bring that to our lives. Toda rabba. Thank you very much. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Amen. Chag Sameach. Thank you, Rabbi Nico and Rabbi Einstein.